and welcome back to the podcast. For those of you who are new around here, my name is Ruth, and I started this podcast to amplify the voices of women in leadership, to talk about what we do beyond the school gates, the good, the bad, and the funny. So apologies for this really random setup. I had a massive plan after work, all set up. I've got my notepads, I've got loads of topics that I wanted to film and talk through, set myself up, 6 batteries. How many were charged? None. All dead. All dead. So I thought, I'll do it another day. But you know what? I thought I would show up and show out, and I decided to film it on my laptop. I thought I'd seize the day. I didn't want to put it off. I was pumped to talk about some of the topics that have come in today. So yeah, a little bit of a different setup, but we're going to keep it moving. Today's topic is about dealing with change, and this was also submitted on Instagram. So if you're not following me over on BTSG podcast on Instagram, please go over there, follow. Got a little bit of a community going, so it'll be great to have your engagement over there too. I was so excited when I saw this topic come in, because if you think about what we've been through as a world in regards to a global pandemic over the last few years, there's so much change going on that I just thought, you know what, a lot of people are dealing with change, and the fact that someone's popped this in as a topic for us to talk about, I thought, you know what, why not? Let me go for it. The first thing I thought about when I saw the topic come up, change, I thought about Who Moved My Cheese. So it's a book, been around for many, many years. I think probably most of you have read it, or there's like short videos on YouTube that kind of talks through it. And there's like a couple of people kind of how they deal with change. Somebody sniffs it out, so they're like first cab off the ranks. If there's a change, they kind of sniff it out, they search it, they thrive when there's change, and then there's kind of 4 different characters, all the way down to somebody who just pretty much gets left behind because they don't want to change. And most people fall within that spectrum, but for the most part we fall kind of somewhere within the middle. I've assumed this topic is about you're going through change within maybe your organization, and you're trying to bring a team along with you. So hopefully I've interpreted the question in the right way. So I always start with what's important to somebody. Once you know what's important to somebody, for me, I find it easier to figure out how to work with them and how to navigate working with them, and then I can adapt or adjust my style accordingly. My first thing would be thinking about how people deal with change and people's values as well. So I love to do like values-based exercises with my team, because I think it's important to check in. We all change, and we'll have different values that are important to us now, and in 6 months' time that might change, and in 12 months' time. So kind of once I've done that, then I'd try and suss out what type of person they are in relation to change. Do they like change? Do they not like change? Where's their vibe in that regard? And those 2 things would help me figure out how to work best with the person. I think communication is definitely key. It's human nature, right? None of us want something to happen to us. So I think the more that we can keep people in the loop, the more that we can communicate as we go, the more that people feel part of the journey and part of the decision making as much as possible, most people will get on board. And my experience has been those who don't get on board, they respect the decision. They respect the decision. They respect the way the organization might be going. They may choose to jump off the bus or the train or whatever moving vehicle you want to use as an analogy. They may decide that they want to move on, and that's okay. And that's actually perfectly fine if that's what people want to do. We're not here to hold people to ransom and make them stay somewhere they don't want to stay. But at least if they do leave, they've had a voice, and their voice has been taken into consideration, and then they've made the decision that's right for them. We can't control decisions that people make. What we can do is control how much information we give people, how kind we are to people, and how we bring people along on the journey. And then ultimately they've got the decision to make. And unfortunately that does mean that people either move on from organizations, or if it's even outside of a work environment and there's change within your personal circumstances. I've seen friendship groups that just go their separate way. No beef, no drama. They just go their separate ways because change has happened in their life, and they just decide that that's not for them, and they don't want to be part of that friendship group anymore, or they stay, they hang around. Like I remember when I had my daughter, I was the only one in my friendship group pretty much that was 17 and pregnant. That's a huge amount of change. But I remember my two best friends just changed how we hung out. My life changed. I made that decision to change my life. Doesn't mean that they have to change their life and they have to change what they do. You have to make a decision that's right for you and something that you feel comfortable with. So I suppose, in summary, if people are thinking about dealing with change and how to bring people along, values, communication, and involve them in the process has been my experience of positive outcomes. And even if the outcome doesn't end up being what you wanted it to be, at least you know you've been honest and you've been authentic and you've done everything you can within your power to communicate to somebody and to bring them along on the journey. And ultimately, that's all you can really do. Sometimes you're part of a bigger machine if it's in a work context and you actually can't change the outcome, but you can contribute to it. And you can make sure that if you are a manager, that your team have their voice within that process as well, and advocate for your team to have a voice in the process. And I suppose if you're going through the change yourself, I think the advice would probably be quite similar. Is it a change you're comfortable with, and why not? Are you not comfortable with it because it actually is in direct conflict with your values, during which you've got a decision that you have to make? Or are you happy just going to sit around and see what the change looks like and see how it goes and then make a decision from there, or something in between? I suppose that would be my advice. Hopefully that answers your question on how to deal with change. For me, every decision, for the most part, that I make and how I deal with situations, especially in a work context, links to my personal values. I treat people how I want to be treated. I try my hardest to just be kind and to engage people and to bring people along on the journey. So that might also be another thing that you could do if you're in a leadership position, is just making sure that people know how to be on the journey, and also just giving that space. Sometimes just giving space for people to say, this feels, to use my technical term, yucky once again. And that's okay. It feels yucky and we're all sitting in this space and we're trying to navigate it all together. Sometimes that's kind of what people need. So hopefully that's answered your question. Trying to get some engagement on the videos on YouTube. We have a lot of engagement on Instagram. If you guys want to contribute to the discussion, how do you manage change? How do you bring people along on the journey? Just comment down below, because a little nugget of useful information or knowledge that you might have that you can share might just help somebody in their journey. So thanks for hanging around, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.